to another podcast. My name is Dr. Jason Wiggins, and I am your Gen Z and Millennial expert. Today's date is February 15th, 2021. Happy Monday! Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend and a great Valentine's Day. So if you're lucky in love, and you had a Valentine's Day and you took care of your sweetie, whoever that may have been, then great deal. And if you're not lucky in love and you're just loving life, then good for you. It's a great time just to be yourself and enjoy yourself. So either way, I hope everybody had a fantastic Valentine's Day, and I'm glad you're here today. One of the things we're going to talk about today is respecting your windy turns. And we're going to talk about that here in a second in detail. Real quick, I just want to talk about the weekend as a whole. I think we always talk about it on this podcast to make sure that you're always learning. And the one thing that I am terrible at, sometimes it's best to know what we're not good at, and that is cooking. I am the world's worst cook, hands down. And last night, I tried to cook a nice Valentine's Day dinner for my wife, who very much appreciated the Valentine's Day dinner. I made creamy Tuscan chicken, and I watched a YouTube video and a recipe online. And it turned out okay, but I still think maybe the chicken might not have been cooked all the way, so I did throw a couple pieces away. But next time, I know what to do so I can make sure I cook it better. But that's just one of the things is try to do something you're not good at and get better at it. And I know that I am a terrible cook, and I can hope that one day I will be a better cook. So that was my weekend in a nutshell, and so I'm glad to be here today. Now, as we talked about in the top of the podcast, the theme of tonight's podcast is respect your windy turns. And what does that mean? Respect your windy turns, respect your windy curves. We're not talking about, our body curves. We're talking about how we approach life, how we get to where we are today, how we get to where we're going to be tomorrow, and where we will end up within our life. As young adolescents, young adults, we tend to do a lot of things that could potentially be self-destructive in the future within our career. And as always, I like to mention some examples in my life of the things that I've done that were what I would consider mistakes, but I learned from them. And that's where respect your windy turns, because there is no straight and narrow path to us becoming the individuals we hope to be one day. When we're younger, we're not thinking about what the end goal is going to be. Not everybody is. There are some people that they have an idea, a dream, and they are fixated. They're going to get there. So that's good that they have that fixated plan to get there. But the majority of us don't have that fixated plan. So we start off on a very, very windy course. We're not always concentrating on what our actions when we're younger, how they're going to be reflective within our career and our career choices, and how our behavior. Sometimes behavior you have when you're a young adult can actually catch up to you and be disruptive in your career. If you do something really dumb as an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old, that has lasting effects on your career. If you end up in jail or you end up doing something that can hurt your career, it could set you back. That's why it's so important that even though if you have windy turns, you have curves, it's not a straight and narrow path to success, just try to make sure that your actions are not ones that will be detrimental to your career. Now, fortunately, as I've always mentioned before, I am so thankful they didn't have cameras, they didn't have surveillance when I was growing up, because if they did, I would probably my career would have been stalled, because sometimes you do things that you shouldn't have done. And if you got caught, there could be serious consequences. And that's why I say respect your curvy turns, but try to do it in a way that will not be disruptive. Some people get piercings, tattoos, or they do things that that could be lack of judgment, but they may not actually hurt their career. Some people have even become dancers. Exotic dancing. Exotic dancing is kind of like, I guess, stripping, for the lack of a better word. A lot of college folks end up doing that, and that's not detrimental in some cases, because it doesn't usually hurt them unless it comes on camera or video. That's when you have to be concerned about it. Either way, your success now and in the future will be indicative on how your behavior is determined. So that's why I say respect the turns that you take, because not everybody's going to take the same path to their success. For example, some people may be a straight A student, they may be top of the class, they will get their scholarships, they'll go straight to school. At college, they'll go to med school, and then they'll start practicing and they'll become doctors. So that right there is a straight and narrow path. However, the opposite of that is, let's just say you decide you're going to go in the military and you have no idea what you're going to do, but you go in the military, you go to college while you're in the military, you learn a trade, and then you come out of the military and you go straight to that trade where you had a free education and you learned skills that are transferable in the workforce. That is not a straight and narrow path, but it's a very successful path, because many people that learn those special skills that are transferred to the civilian world and are able to go to school off the military and have schooling paid for without any debt, they tend to have a lot of success. And then there's the other ones that, let's just say, they have a really rocky childhood, or they get pregnant during a young age. They're raising a child. They're still going to school. They may be going to school part-time, doing it online, maybe part-time at going within the classroom. Either way, it's not typically how people want to get their college education. But again, they had a hiccup in their life. They brought a child into the world that kind of slowed their career path a little bit, but it didn't knock them out. It didn't knock them down. They were still able to get up. They were still able to figure out a game plan to get back to school and find a way to get to their career. Fortunately, now with online school and all the opportunities that are available via the computer, this gives folks that may have not had an opportunity in the past decades to be able to reach their goals by obtaining their education, obtaining the needed training to get where they need to go. Also, you can find all your jobs online. You can find resume help. You got YouTube videos. There are so many ways to have tools at your disposal to utilize within these windy turns. So we've talked about different ways of progressing to your career. You could have a pregnancy, you could have a drug issue or an alcohol issue, or maybe you had other issues, and that's the winding road. It's the road less traveled, but it doesn't mean you still can't be successful. It may just take you a little longer. Then I talked about you have the straight and narrow path, which is exactly somebody that does very, very well, goes to a great college, goes to med school, and starts practicing and becomes a doctor. Or you have the one as mentioned, they may have had some issues, some hiccups, and that slowed their progress, but they were able to reach the goals. So there is no one path fits all, no one size fits all. It's all about utilizing the tools that you have and listening and learning from your mistakes. And if you're younger, you'll make a lot of them. And sometimes you don't even know you're making the mistakes. And so I want to leave a couple tips before we leave today. The tips are when you're younger, think about your actions. Think about who's watching you. Think about, is something being recorded? Is something going to be uploaded onto the internet? Things like that can really cause a major issue for you in your life, because once it hits the internet, without being properly scrubbed from the internet, it will affect you. Number one. Number two, make sure you are very careful on adhering to the law and not breaking the law. If you find yourself with a criminal record or going to jail and you can't get that expunged from your record, that will cause major issues for you and that will stall your career. And number three is evaluate what's important to you. Even at a younger age, you have to start planning. We've talked about Gen Z and millennials having so much competition. Well, that competition is extremely front and center even at a younger age. So you've got to start planning ahead for your future. So these are the three tips that I hope that you take into account and realize that your success or your failure now can cause major issues and concerns for you in the future. Respect the turns, respect the curvy desires that you have as you get from one place to another. Remember, there is not one distinct roadmap from A to Z. There's a lot of different ways to get from A to Z. It's just finding the roadmap that makes the most sense for you and how you can achieve that success. But don't make the mistakes that will hold you back. Again, the reason why we have a childhood, adulthood, and college years is to be able to experiment, is to be able to do things that as you get older, you cannot do or you shouldn't do. But don't abuse it. And that's the key thing, is don't abuse certain things in your life. And that way they don't come back to haunt you. So I hope you enjoyed today's tips about respect the curvy roads, because sometimes it's the road less traveled that will get you to where you need to be. We all make mistakes. We all do things that are considered stupid at one time or another, but don't let it impact you in the future. Now, let's just say you do something that's dumb and impacts you. Well, then you got to figure out, how do I fix this? Sometimes you need a very good lawyer. Sometimes you need to figure out how to use online identity to expunge some of the things that you've done. But again, all this stuff costs money and it costs time and resources that are better spent doing something else. So just keep that in mind. And if you have kids, you want to start planting that seed in their head at an early age, that remember, whatever you do, wherever you are, remember, your actions are likely to be seen by others, either on surveillance, video, phone, whatever it may be. Just don't hinder your overall success by making an irreparable mistake. So I want to thank everybody again. Happy Monday. And I appreciate all the listenerships. Everything has been going great. And your listenership is why we have this podcast. And this podcast is about Gen Z and millennials and those that lead them. So as always, I want to thank you. The best way to get in touch is via our email, jason@jwigginsconsulting.com, or via our website, genzandmillennialexpert.com. So if it's in the morning, afternoon, or night, be safe, take care, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.